Hello and welcome to The Insider, a show designed to clue you into the biggest news, events and announcements inside the video games industry, discussing with you some things you may know, some things you may not, and the glue that holds it all together is a little bit of my own opinion. My name is Paul James, thank you very much for watching, and let's hear for the episode.
I'm a living legend. You ain't heard yet, you not get the message. From the moment that I'm stepping in
approaching drop zone.
turn to a bass when I'm rapping.
So it's been a while since we've spoken about just a particular game. The games industry has thrown up so many different topics of discussion over the course of the last few months that I haven't gotten back to the core of what this series was about, which is looking at games, looking at the announcements, and really picking apart the details that we've learned about them. Now, even with the focus on a particular game this episode, the newly released Apex Legends, things are still going to have to be a little bit different because this game shadow dropped and it's already available now. So throughout the course of this episode, we're going to look at some important details about this game, what it means, bigger picture, and what it means for the game itself. There's a lot to discuss, so let's get into this episode of The Insider.
Some legends fight for fortune, others answers. But we shall all be forged in the glorious realm.
Mirage, quiet. Path, are we clear?
This is my favorite part. Exciting!
So a few leaks in advance kind of spoiled the fun and games, but what we've discovered in the last few days is that Fortnite has a new contender. Fortnite is without doubt the biggest battle royale game in the world, and quite arguably, you could quite easily argue the biggest game in the world right now. But it's got a new contender, and a really serious one, in the form of Apex Legends, a spin-off of the Titanfall franchise, so an EA and Respawn production, and it was stealth dropped, more or less. Again, there were some little leaks and some little things that were kind of teased and broke in the days in advance, but for the vast majority of us, we knew nothing until this thing was basically available on our PlayStations, our PCs, our Xboxes. And that's awesome. And as we've gone through and explored the game so far, we've come to discover that it is fantastic. It's built on the core that is Titanfall. There are some features that are there and there's some things that aren't, but it's built on the core that is Titanfall. It explores that battle royale concept. It's got 60-player battles. It's got the loot drops. It's got some really cool additional features in the form of your squads and the fact that you can respawn if members of your squad are still alive. There's lots of cool little aspects that have been added to this, and it's really given Epic Games and its community something to think about. There's a serious new contender here. PUBG is done. Call of Duty, well, its own fan base is divided because of the suite of options that are available there. There is a new contender in town. It's a serious one, and as someone who does not typically play competitive shooters, let alone battle royales, I've been loving this game. And it's really posed a lot of questions. We're going to dive into more about it next.
Death is inevitable. It's calling you.
Tell Death I said hello.
It's crazy to think that as fantastic as this game is, as beautiful as it looks to play, as it sounds, and everything is just so impressive about the title. It's free to play. There's the microtransactions, the balancing is perfect when it comes to those. I don't feel obliged to pay for them. The heroes, all those things I spoke about in the last segment, everything is so great. And yet there's still so much room to grow with this game. And that's what impresses me most about it. Apex Legends is born and built upon the foundations that are the Titanfall franchise. Like I spoke about before, there's some things present, there's some things that aren't. But some of these things in different ways, shapes and forms could slowly begin to infiltrate their way into this experience as time progresses. The Titanfall, if we had something called Titanfall Apex Legends, maybe that scares a few people off because they're not necessarily familiar with Titanfall. Apex Legends, a title on its own, is great because it seems fresh to so many people. But then once they get in, well, Respawn has the opportunity to introduce people slowly to all things Titanfall. Maybe specific events at different points or specific modes that maybe get added later on see Titans actually enter the fray. Maybe it's a battle royale with all Titans. Maybe something kind of different like what we got with the Thanos mode in Fortnite a few months back. This is a limited time thing where we just throw a bunch of shit at the wall and we see what happens. Wall running is a feature of the Titanfall franchise for the pilots. It's not present for the Legends here, but it's something that maybe they develop sometime in the future, and it's a new gameplay feature that gets added into it. And there's the potential for world building. I know that this game is designed to stand solo and apart from the Titanfall franchise, but it also makes a great deal of sense, and we're going to talk about it in more detail shortly. It makes a lot of sense for Respawn to take this opportunity to drop nuggets of Titanfall into this franchise so that maybe that translates to bigger things down the line. Now that remains to be seen. There's a mountain of stuff still to be done, and it's a huge effort that they need to put in to maintain this rage, to, who knows, overcome, quote unquote, Fortnite, or be a rival in that mix, be able to steal some of that audience, and also raises a lot of questions for me about what's going on with this Battlefield 5 Battle Royale mode that was supposed to be present in the main game. It got delayed. Does that exist anymore? Is the success of Apex Legends so far, does that mean that we're just not going to see it? Does that project get axed? Is it not going to be a feature anymore? Because all of a sudden you're going to have EA, if it happens, you're going to have EA releasing 2 different Battle Royale modes only a few months apart from one another, and God forbid that they go through the same Titanfall, Battlefield battle they went through internally a couple of years ago. Let the Titanfall franchise be. Stop trying to, or its spin-offs, stop trying to kill it. It seems so ridiculous, but let's just scrap this Battlefield 5 Battle Royale mode, because this works. This is great. People love it. And let's move on to the next segment.
Check out the loot. They left Gibraltar. This is what legends are made of.
So the final thing for us to discuss today is, what does this all mean for the Titanfall franchise? Does it mean we never see Titanfall again? Is it going to come back bigger and better and stronger than ever before? Well, I've got some theories, and let's discuss those. Well, we know that for a period there, as reported by Kotaku a few years ago now, the Titanfall 3 at one point was in fact in development. But what ultimately happened, or at least seems to have happened, is that the project morphed into what has now become Apex Legends. So no Titans, no wall running, no lore, or any of those sort of things that were introduced in Titanfall 2. And let's remember that Titanfall 2 has perhaps one of the best campaigns of the last decade, if not longer. So there's a lot of potential there in that Titanfall franchise. What I would love for Respawn to do, like I spoke about in the last section there, is just drop little nuggets of Titanfall in there. Start to get the players who've just come in the door, they're not familiar with the franchise, familiar with it. And maybe they'll go out and they'll buy Titanfall 2. Maybe they'll be there when EA goes and announces Titanfall 3. There's a lot of water to pass under the bridge still. We know that Respawn is working on Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order at the moment. This new project is a big one for them to juggle. So then to take on a new Titanfall game as well, that's a big ask. But the seeds are sown. The franchise is now starting to get looked at in a totally different way. And who knows where we can go from there. The success should spill over to a Titanfall 3, hypothetically. That all remains to be seen. We know that Titanfall 2 didn't sell like it was supposed to. EA projected and hoped for at least 9 to 10 million sales, and in the end Titanfall 2 only achieved between 5 and 6 million. Is this supposed to help resuscitate the franchise, lift it up? I think there's some real strategy in this, and it could bode really well for a potential Titanfall 3, but I just think we're going to have to wait a little while. This is what Titanfall fans are going to get for a while, and it's awesome. Savor it, lap it up, and then when the time eventually comes that they drop a new Titanfall on us, well, there's going to be a mass of people that are ready to consume this thing, all things going well.
It's on the way. Stand by for Titanfall.
So that concludes this episode of The Insider. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider liking, sharing and subscribing. All those buttons are down below here, and hit that notification bell, that way you're alerted to new episodes of The Insider, Player 2 Plays, Late Game Review, Gamer School and a whole bunch more the moment they go live. There is some awesome stuff there, so please be sure to go and check it out. Also visit the website, player2.net.au, where you'll find written content, links to podcast series, Dev Diary, the Player 2 podcast, which is now the host of the Player 2 Pixelcast, and a whole bunch more, links to our Twitch feed. We're hosting some awesome streams regularly each week nowadays, so go check out all that stuff. There's some great things going on at the site. You wouldn't want to miss it. We're also on Patreon, patreon.com/player2au, and consider kicking a few bucks. At the lower tiers, you get early access to episodes of this and Patched and a whole bunch more. At the higher tiers, you get monthly episode exclusives and the ability to join us in the Player 2 podcast, or potentially the Player 2 Pixelcast. We'll see how that all plays out. For rolling updates, you can find me at Paul James Games. The website you'll find at Player2AU. And until next time, go out and play some Apex Legends. It's awesome. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.